everybody, this is a tutorial on your Viking Macro Controller, and this tutorial is for users that just received their controller, and we will cover the basic dual trigger rapid fire macro that comes preloaded on the controller, and then we will go through a tutorial to show you how to build your very own rapid fire macro. And this is a great tutorial, and we really advise following through. It's a great way to learn the basics of navigating the macro software and getting into the basics of creating your own macros, which is really the beauty of this product. Using your own, building your own configurations, and of course sharing with other customers and using what they've worked hard to create to help you with your gaming out there. So anyway, let's get started with the stock controller as it comes to you in the mail. You'll want the Viking Macro software installed on your Windows PC, the play and charge cable, the controller of course, and a battery pack. So let's put the battery pack in. You want to power up using the guide button. It gets you into basically gameplay mode where you're ready to play the game. And for this demonstration, I am equipping myself with the FAL rifle and the 5.7 dual wielding pistols. And we will draw out my pistols here, and to turn on the basic right trigger rapid fire, just tap this tack switch here on the right top side of your controller where my thumb is wiggling. Just tap that once. The player 4 LED turns on, and that means right trigger rapid fire is ready to go. So let's pull the right trigger and see what happens. We have rapid fire on our right trigger. We can do the same with turning the rapid fire on the left trigger by pressing the left top tack switch here where my left thumb is. Press that once. This time that player 3 LED on the left turns on, and that means left trigger rapid fire is ready to go. So let's pull the left trigger and see what happens. We have got rapid fire going on both of our triggers. Now if we do not want rapid fire, just tap that tack switch again to turn it off, and the player 3 LED turns off, and we can pull the left trigger and see what happens. Just regular firing. Same thing with the right trigger rapid fire. Tap that right tack switch, LED turns off, meaning rapid fire is turned off, and pull the right trigger, and we have normal firing. And that's it. That for out of the box, we just send the simplest dual trigger macros on there. We want to keep it simple at the start. There's a little bit of a learning curve as you learn to navigate the software, so we just start out simple. At this time, let's go ahead and connect our controller to the software and see what this macro looks like in the software. To do that, we'll need to power off the controller, and I usually just do that by removing the battery pack. And then this time we'll power up the controller again, but this time we do it by pressing the start button. And by pressing the start button, we're telling our mod chip, hey, we want to go into programming mode. And you'll see that the player 1 and the player 3 LED turned on this time. And that means this controller is in programming mode and is ready to be connected to the PC. So let us grab the play and charge cable, plug the other end into your PC, and press this end firmly into your controller. And we are connected in the software. You can see here in the lower left-hand side, the message says connected. And of course, the LEDs will go crazy on here to let you know the controller is communicating over that USB. Let's download that default macro set out of the controller. And we do that in the lower right-hand corner of the software. There's a little icon of a controller with arrows pointing out of the controller. That means we're going to pull the macros out of the controller. Hit that button. It will take just a few moments here for the computer to pull those macros out, and here we have it. You can see on RT, right trigger, we've got our right trigger rapid fire, And on the LT left trigger, we have the left trigger rapid fire, and those are currently set for 7.5 SPS. That's shorthand for shots per second. You'll hear that term quite a bit. And you see we've got kind of another special macro here on the right RT1, right tack switch 1 here on the top. We've got a toggle set up. So the toggle means we can toggle that rapid fire on or off. And we'll cover that more later in the tutorial. So this is what the homepage looks like, and this is what the macros look like for that basic macro set. What I'd like to do now is start over from a clean sheet, and we will build our very own rapid fire macro for right trigger. So to start fresh, in the upper right hand corner there is this icon with a white sheet of paper and a small feather pen. That just means clean sheet. If you hit that, it will erase everything we've got, and we are now working from a fresh clean sheet. And to create a new macro for the right trigger, we will hover over RT to bring up the selection wheel and hover over this film strip and click on it. And what has happened here is we are now editing a macro for the right trigger, and we are on the timeline editor, and you might hear some people call this the tracks editor or the timeline tracks. And what we've got here going down the left hand side is all the different buttons and joysticks and triggers and D-pad and the LEDs that you have control over. And you can scroll down a little bit farther. You see you also have control over the start button and the back button if you'd like. And across the top is time. This is just time in seconds. So 0 seconds, 0.1 seconds, 0.2 seconds, and so on. And you can only view 1 second at a time, but you can scroll to the right to view additional time. Okay, what we want to do here is create a right trigger rapid fire macro. So we're going to come down here to this right trigger track and just follow along here, and you'll probably grasp the concept. But about halfway between the 0.0 and the 0.1 mark, left click to create a dot. Now what we have here, this bar is fat on one end and skinny on the other end. This represents a full trigger press on the fat end, and it represents a trigger release on the skinny end. And the idea, the general rule with the tracks is you need 2 points, 2 white dots to make an action happen. So let's right click on that dot we made, hold, and drag out. And now we've got 2 dots making an action. So when this macro plays, it will start here, and nothing will happen for a little while, and then all of a sudden the macro will release the trigger, and it will hold that trigger released over till about here, and then the macro will just repeat that. Now you might be wondering, if we're doing a rapid fire macro, why would I want to release the trigger? Don't I want to be pressing the trigger? And that's not true, because when you are shooting using the rapid fire in game, what you do is you pull the right trigger and hold it. So you're already holding down that right trigger, and what the macro is doing for you is releasing it very fast for you. So again, kind of wrap your head around this idea. You're holding that right trigger down, so you're already holding it, and what we need that macro software to do is release a bunch of times really fast. So it'll do nothing, let you hold, let you pull the trigger, and then it releases for you. So just bear with us here. This, you'll see more. Just play around with it. You'll get the concept here. So in any case, this is it. This is a rapid fire macro for the right trigger. We're done. Let's go ahead and when we're happy with this, go up to the right hand corner, upper right hand corner, click the green check mark. That means we're happy with the macro, and we did not give this macro a name, so right now it just says it's the unsaved macro assigned to your right trigger. And we can go ahead and send this to your controller. In the lower right hand corner there's that icon of a black controller, and this time we want to click on the one that shows the arrows pointing into the controller. That means we're putting the macro into the controller. So go ahead and click that. It's going to send that macro over. To take just a moment. And it's all done. And what we need to do is unplug the programming cable, power off the controller, and power it back up. Now remember, we power up using the guide button if we want to play. It's the guide button to play, or the start button to program. So here we are. This controller has got a rapid fire macro on the right trigger, and it's ready to go. So let's pull the trigger and see what happens. Now you'll notice that we got rapid fire, but it was a little sputtery. Let's watch that again. By sputtery, I mean the firing wasn't very smooth. Now what's happened is we've created a macro that's too fast for the game, and we are getting mod blocked. And so what we need to do is dial the speed down a little bit, and that will create smoother firing. So we will power off the controller, power up in programming mode by pressing the start button, plug in that programming cable, and we are already in the Viking software, and we want to go edit the speed on that macro, that on the right trigger. So hover over RT again and hover over that little film strip and click it, and it brings us over to that timeline editor again, and there is our macro. It's still there. And you might think, if I need this to be slower, that you would have to drag this whole macro over to the right. And that is one option, but it is not the only option, because you're probably thinking, geez, if I just want to tweak the speed a little bit, I have to go in here and redraw my whole macro, and that's not true. We have got a feature that is a lot easier way of adjusting how fast a macro plays. And to access that, look for the gear icon here in the upper right hand side. Click on that gray gear, and it brings up the properties box for this macro. And now let's go ahead and give this thing a name while we're at it. Okay, we've got it named. Now the box you want to look at is the speed multiplier box. This handy dandy box will let you increase or decrease the speed of your macro. So I'm gonna dial the speed down a little bit to slow it down so that we don't get mod blocked anymore. Hit OK to save our changes, and click on the green check mark box. We're happy with the changes we made. And let's send this macro set to our controller again. So click on the icon with the arrows pointing into the controller. We're sending those macros into the controller. It will take just a moment to send those files over. And it's done. We're ready. Unplug the programming cable, power off the controller, and this time power it up holding the guide button for play mode, and let it sync to our console. And we're in. Okay, now let's pull the right trigger and see what happens this time. You can see that rapid fire is a lot smoother this time. Let's watch that one more time. So we've successfully lowered the speed so that we are not getting mod blocked anymore. And you can go back and forth and keep tweaking the speed. Obviously the idea here is to get the speed as fast as you can without getting mod blocked. At least I prefer smooth firing. So Next question you might have is, hey, I've got this rapid fire macro, but it's always on. What if I don't want the rapid fire turned on? Well, we can take care of that. We just need to go back to our editing software. So let's go ahead and connect our controller to the Windows editing software one more time. And what we want to do is add a toggle so that we can toggle that rapid fire macro on and off. And I want to use the right tack switch one. It's that one here on the right top side of the controller as a toggle. So in the software, hover over RT1, that wheel pops up, and click on this little round target. It says toggle macro on and off. Click on that. It's asking which macro is it that you want to control. Now we've only assigned one macro, so in this drop down it only says right trigger. So yep, we want to toggle the right trigger macro. And then LED indicator. What does that mean? It will show us the status of that toggle on one of these LEDs. So I'm going to go ahead and pick LED 4. So that'll be the LED in the lower right hand side. So the idea is, I'll go ahead and click OK to save. Now when let's just go ahead and download this, and I'll show you with the macro downloaded into the controller. So once again, we send these macros into the controller. Pick that icon with arrows pointing into the controller. It will take just a moment here to send those files to your controller. And one last time, we will power down the controller, power up in play mode by holding the guide button. Now, let's go ahead and pull the right trigger and see what happens. Nothing. We've got regular firing. Now tap the RT1, that right top tack switch. You can see the player 4 LED turned on. So I've just toggled on rapid fire. Now let's pull the right trigger and see what happens this time. There's my rapid fire. So I really like to use the toggle. You know, sometimes you want rapid fire, sometimes you don't, and you just a single button press there, bam, bam, you can turn your rapid fire on and off. That's pretty much it. That's you've just made your first macro. You've learned how to use the macro software and the macro editor, and you've even learned how you can toggle a macro on and off. So that's a good start for a tutorial. There is a little bit of a learning curve, but once you learn your way around the software, you're really going to be happy with the control and flexibility you have making your own macros and using all those awesome macros that our staff and other customers have forged. And we look forward to bringing you some more basic tutorials on using your macro controller. Stay tuned.